Imagine this. It's a Tuesday afternoon. You're at work when suddenly your boss calls you into her office. She has a new assignment for you, one she believes is perfect for your skills and expertise. But then it hits you. You don't have the skills or the experience needed to be successful in this role. And so instead of jumping right in and taking on the challenge, you push back against your boss. You say something along the lines of, "You've got the wrong person? I'm not the right person for this job. I'm not qualified enough." Imagine your surprise when your boss pushes back and says, No, you are the right person for this job. I wouldn't have given this to anyone else. I know you can do it." Your boss is so confident in your ability, but you're so convinced of your own inadequacy that you don't take on the challenge. You miss out on an opportunity for growth because you choose to stay small. Most of us would look at this scenario and say, that person is a loser. Why would they pass up such an obvious opportunity? But what if I told you that's exactly what a lot of survivors do every single day? What if I told you that's exactly what you did yesterday? And that's exactly what you will probably do tomorrow? Well, in today's episode, I want to talk about the one wound that changes everything. And that is the wound that makes you you. Specifically, I want to talk about how trauma becomes identity and why it can be difficult to let go of the wounded part of you. This is a super interesting topic, so make sure you stick around until the end. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Either way, I'm really excited you're here. Let's begin. One of the most frustrating things about working with survivors is that oftentimes they already know what they need to do to heal. They already know what's holding them back, and they actively choose to stay stuck. This may sound confusing, but let me give you a few more examples. Picture yourself walking into an important job interview. You're well qualified, you've done your research, and you feel pretty good about your chances. But once inside the interview, you start doubting yourself. Suddenly you're worried that maybe you're overqualified, that they'll find you boring, or that you won't get along with the team. As a result, you start apologizing excessively, explaining away your qualifications, and basically making yourself smaller in order to appease the interviewer. In other words, you think being humble will help your chances of getting the job, but really, you're just sabotaging yourself. Or imagine this. You're in a committed relationship that feels unbalanced. You do most of the work and your partner does very little. When you bring it up, they get defensive and dismissive and tell you that you're too sensitive. You're making too big a deal out of nothing. So what do? Do you stand up for yourself, call them out on their bad behavior, and risk rocking the boat? No, you let it go. You stay silent. You do most of the work, and you hope that someday they'll change. I know these examples are painfully simple, but they illustrate a larger point. Most survivors know what they need to do to heal, but fear keeps them stuck. Here's the thing. There is this idea in psychology that the mind works best when it has a problem to solve. So when faced with a traumatic event, our brains create a narrative that helps us make sense of what happened. Then after the initial shock wears off, we still hold on to that narrative even though it's no longer useful. Because the alternative idea that maybe I am not broken, I am lovable, I can create healthy relationships, I can ask for help, that narrative doesn't feel as satisfying. And because the brain craves completion, it often chooses the flawed narrative that allows us to continue suffering. This is where it gets interesting. See, I believe that all of us want to heal from our past wounds. We all want to move forward and live a life that feels rich, meaningful, and joyful. But healing also means letting go of the wounded part of ourselves, which brings up feelings of abandonment and grief. This is why most people cling to their pain. The wounded part of ourselves becomes our identity. It feels essential to who we are. It feels like if we let go of our wounds, we'll lose a part of ourselves. And when we let go of that part, we also let go of the victim narrative that goes along with it. And without that narrative, we don't know who we are. So here's the real question. Can we create a new narrative that allows us to honor the truth of our experiences without giving up on ourselves? Yes, and here's how. When talking about healing from trauma, there's this constant emphasis on safety. Because of our traumatic experiences, we feel unsafe in the world, unsafe in our bodies, and even unsafe in our own minds. So anything that reminds us of our past wounds causes us to withdraw, even if the thing reminding us of our past wounds is actually helpful. Like the word therapy. For example, we might resist therapy because it reminds us of our past hurts. That's why it's crucial to address the root cause of this unfound safety. In order to change our thoughts and behaviors, we must first identify them. We must first become aware of how our past hurts affect us in the present. For example, when we hear the word therapy, we might feel overwhelmed with all the emotions that come up for us. But instead of trying to push those emotions away, we can acknowledge them. We can sit with them, learn about them, and allow them to pass. Once we've acknowledged our emotions, we can explore why they're coming up in the first place. Our past experiences have taught us certain beliefs about ourselves and the world. These beliefs are often negative and limiting, like I'm not worthy of love or help, or I'm not allowed to have nice things. These beliefs become our identity, which is why changing them can be so challenging. It requires us to confront our demons and come face to face with the parts of ourselves that we've been trying to deny. But this process is necessary if we want to truly heal and move forward. Trauma can make us feel disconnected from ourselves and others, but we can reconnect by embracing our vulnerabilities. By acknowledging our pain and allowing ourselves to feel it, we open ourselves up to the possibility of healing. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. But Michael, how do I embrace my vulnerability? How do I stop resisting the parts of myself that I don't want to feel? That's where my program comes in. In my program, I take a deep dive into the most overlooked aspects of healing, the parts that nobody talks about, like radical acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean we agree with or like our thoughts, feelings, memories, or experiences. It simply means we allow ourselves to feel them without judgment. Acceptance is powerful because it's the gateway to change. Before we can heal, we must first accept the reality of our situation. Only then can we begin to transform our pain into wisdom. And that's what I do in my program. I teach you how to accept and process your emotions so you can release them and move forward. I guide you through a series of exercises that will help you become more aware of your thoughts and feelings and how they affect your behavior. I also teach you how to identify and challenge your negative beliefs and replace them with more positive affirmations. With the right mindset, anything is possible. You can overcome any obstacle and achieve any goal. All it takes is a willingness to learn and grow. So are you ready to take the next step on your journey towards healing? Are you ready to accept your emotions, challenge your negative beliefs, and create a new identity for yourself? If so, I invite you to join my program. Together, we can heal. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please hit the like button and leave me a comment below. I always appreciate hearing from you. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would love to have you back for my next video. Have a beautiful day.